It's not every day that you're punched in the feels by a UFC pro. Since 2017, Edmen Shahbazyan has climbed the ranks in the UFC. He's traded a few blows with the top fighters around, but things haven't been so golden for the golden boy of UFC recently, as he battled another beast, toxic workplaces. Let's see how he fought out of his toxic camp and also promised to shine at his upcoming performance. First off, the team that both launched and stopped Edmen's winning streak. Edmen Shahbazyan's rise in the UFC has been nothing short of spectacular. Even more spectacular is the fact that he's been with the same camp for the longest time. Tyson and Cus became each other's namesakes in sports history, and so did Angelo Dundee and Muhammad Ali. In MMA, Habib and Abdul Manap's father-son duo sparked off a legacy of MMA. But not all legacies are good. This is where Edmen's struggles with his camp start coming into focus. The center of the 25-year-old contender's camp had, for many years, been the Glendale Fighting Club. The California resident's history with the club goes back to his childhood years, from being a playground for the amateur player to his professional debut. The club's been there for him through it all. While support's good and all, it can also turn into a crutch after years of counting on it. For professional fighters, it's no different than being chained to a heavyweight that's kept you afloat but is now pulling you underwater. After Edmen's TKO to Antonio Jones in all of 40 seconds at the Contender Series 13, there was no looking back. That is until very recently, when his 3 losses slowed him down just enough to take a reality check. You see, through his successes, Edmen's team had stayed constant. Unfortunately, this was also true during his string of failures. Luckily, Edmen broke off the old ties before they could drown his fighting career. Now for how a team can both make and break a fighter's spirit. There's many things that a team can provide that are simply unavailable anywhere else. It's a package deal, training ground, support group, and war room. You can imagine the pressure a fighter is under before their fight, and it's here they come to help themselves recover from a loss or celebrate a win. Initially, there were a lot of those wins for Edmen, 11 if we're counting. Things seemed to be going well until the fighter started losing. This downward slide might have added to the overall stress in his camp. The losses caused Edmen to discover flaws in his fighting condition, beginning with his camp. Initially, Edmen stated that his break from his home base in Glendale wasn't due to any ill feelings, but in recent months, the credibility of this Ronda Tarverdian joint partnership has been reduced after allegations of a toxic environment by none other than their rising champion and shining star. Coming from Edmen, one thing's guaranteed: he probably knows his team best since the UFC middleweight's been around. The same team since he was all but 10. So what happened to turn the sweet and fruitful partnership into a sour mistake for the Golden Boy? And the overriding authority of MMA clubs certainly played a part. Let's look at the potential for mental abuse in MMA clubs. MMA is physically taxing, of course, but it's emotionally draining too. You might not realize it, but before you know it, the grind starts again the next day. You can imagine that Edmen, with the UFC champion's title on his mind, a toxic gym might be less of a concern than success and efficiency. But sooner or later, the efficiency will wear off too, as seen through Edmen's losses. This comes from the strict nature of the work. For one, you've got to trust the trainer to the point of devotion. Edmen had been doing that with Tarverdian since his childhood, but he was also trusting his money with another of Glendale's famous athletes, Ronda Rousey. So both health and money were on the line with one team of people. A lot of responsibility comes with a lot more room for betrayal. Even healthy MMA clubs can be stressful. Surely, toxic MMA clubs take the life out of you. And for Edmen, his game is his life and livelihood, both. Since a coach is the go-to for training decisions and schedules, it can get hard for a UFC pro like Edmen to give up his experience and favor his coach's authority all the time. While rules and regulations are a part of any sport, when team rules clash with the rise of a hungry contender like Edmen, it can spark off a fight on home turf. Following up Edmen's toxic experience, showing us that even fighters have to battle harsh workplaces, Edmen broke his silence on the lack of communication between coach and student. After his 11-win streak, he must have amassed lessons of his own. A fighter at that level must make hard choices, but these choices become harder when faced with resistance by one's own team. The same trust that led you to success can create self-doubt and even fear, not to mention feuds if things get intense. Moving up in the world of MMA also meant Edmen was consistently leveling up, but you can only go so far in one place. Just as you make the big dough in a high-grade oven, perhaps Glendale was cooling up for the hot champion of UFC. While Glendale might have been successful in helping him rise through the ranks, sometimes it's time to call it quits in order to move up the food chain. Glendale, for its success with Rousey and later Edmen, was still a regional gym with little competition. Moving to Vegas must have been a sigh of relief, as a place where he could not just make his own choices, but also spar with better fighters and train under the best trainers. Moving on, what finally led Edmen to make a clean break and refresh? It's simple, losing. With 3 fights on the downslide, 2 knockouts no less by Brunson and Imavov, the 25-year-old middleweight knew he had to make a change. Of course, the octagon is not his workplace, it's the gym, so it made sense that he had to change it and enter cleaner, better, less chaotic surroundings. This would hopefully allow him to focus on his game more. With the move to Extreme Couture, he finally bid his old home goodbye along with head coach Edmen Shahbazyan and manager Ronda Rousey. It might have been stressful, but now he could do what he did best, fight, particularly after the player's 11-win streak started going downhill for 3 fights straight. But now that he's moved on, will his fighting career reflect his change of surroundings? By the sound of it, Edmen's already feeling more independent and less stressed in his new home and new gym. It's certainly a tough decision to make, and we're sure Edmen's not taking it lightly, coming at a crucial time when his future in the UFC and track record are on the line. We can imagine that only made the decision tougher, but also necessary. While we expect a changed Edmen in the octagon next time, for better or for worse, Edmen's betting on not just being better, but the best he's ever been. What's more, the fighter's prepared to bring his best to the ring. Fresh off a new start, the fighter's really loving himself lately. We're certainly loving it. It shows in his surge of self-confidence without resting on his previous accomplishments. This certainly shows a renewed set of expectations too, Edmen's own. Where others might have lit the fire, he alone can keep it burning. And by the looks of it, Edmen's far from burned out. He's just getting started. For one, his hunger's back as he gears up for a fight against Dalcha Lagimbula. Is he sure of the outcome himself? No, but his expectations to do his best. And it's certainly won him 11 fights before. It can surely win him this too. Finally, Edmen might need to change his strategy for the next fight too. Changing scenery is one thing, but changing strategy is equally essential to ensure the win Edmen's rooting for. Edmen's shown a swift pace in his former fights, charging ahead for a knockout, but so has Dalcha. That might be a problem as both fighters have similar fighting styles. For Edmen to secure a win, he'll need to change course to get the upper hand on Dalcha. Perhaps we're seeing the new Edmen already, as he acknowledged these same things about his opponent. He's conscious but not self-conscious. This humility and realization make him a lethal opponent. Certainly, the fighter's shown he's no stranger to tough decisions in his recent break with his longtime camp. At the same time, he's prepared to take things to the next level, as a fighter and as a person. As a sign of his commitment, he's moved states and broken free of toxic ties. What more can he do? And we think you can guess his answer. Simply, my best. That's a wrap on this video. Would you have made the tough decision Edmen had? And will it pay off at his next fight? We'd love to hear your answers in the comments below. And if you like this video, do give it a like. As always, don't forget to press the subscribe button for the latest in entertainment. See you in the next one.